Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday edition video, which is going to be an upgrade and commander build video here on the Tier 10 Soviet heavy cruiser, the Petropavlovsk. I'm actually pretty excited to talk about today's video because there are some things I haven't done with Petropavlovsk yet that I know could push the ship even further in terms of her capabilities, particularly around her armaments. So we're going to dive into that, but first we need to talk about what type of cruiser is the Petropavlovsk. Is she a long-range sniper, is she a brawler, or is she more of a mid-range heavy cruiser? And my answer to you would be primarily she's mid-range cruiser, and for the tier 10s, usually, or high tier, I say mid-range is like, let's say 12 to 15. In this case, I might say 12 to 14. That would be even better because your dispersion curve improves 14 kilometers and under. And it's quite comfortable to play in that range because of your, if you build full conceal, you're 13.2 kilometers. And you're playing around key objectives, I would say particularly capture point zones with your 12 kilometer radar. So you're playing those key areas. So that's really where I think the Petropavlovsk shines in terms of her capability. So mid-range cruiser, you know, she's got the hydroacoustic search. If she has to push even closer in, she can have the accuracy even at the longer ranges. Granted, it's 18.5 kilometers to reliably hit targets, which we'll talk about the accuracy here in a moment between some of the upgrades. But I'd say the mid-range, and also because of her durability. So let's go talk about the armor layout here. So starting off with the deck, in the aft end of you have 25 millimeter plating, and then you have the icebreaker bow of 50 millimeters. And then we come here to the back, you actually get a little bit more armor protection over your steering gears, 180, but then a 50 here as well. And then moving along, the deck is 40 millimeters. Now, if I remember correctly, this used to be 50 millimeters, but Wargaming did a nerf and dropped it from 50 to 40 just because she's a little too HE resilient. So that's what they have done here. So that's why it's quite frustrating as a destroyer player when you're trying to shoot the superstructure, which of course you can pin as a destroyer player. It's got 16 millimeters. But then your shells are landing all across that's 40 millimeter, which you're just simply not going to pin with 5-inch guns as an example, high explosive. And then coming down, you've got a little bit of a 180 here, and then it's still also 180 as well there. And they're kind of extending this plate forward, I'm assuming, to help protect your citadel here underneath your two forward main battery turret. 40 millimeter here as well, and then underneath drops down to a 30 millimeter. So if we strip some things away and we show you that citadel, it is above waterline citadel. So the mid section is naturally the weak point. So what you're looking at is, you know, if you're taking on a Petropavlovsk, you know, directly behind the front of the conning tower till the back where you have this staircase leading up to your AA guns here. So that's the weak spot that you want to be hitting. You can also note that it's slightly angled if you're trying to be cheeky and get a citadel in through here. So if I put that armor back on, you know, of course you have that 50 millimeter that's helped protecting it, but it's just something if you want to try to keep that in mind. I'm not sure if you could actually punch through and quite hit the citadel like that, but it is an interesting note. And you see here how it's angled kind of out to the right and then to the left. I put that back on, then you can see you have that 180 there that's also trying to help with that. Granted, it seems like it's a little further back. Yeah, it's more like right through here. So you can be cheeky about that. So let's go ahead and add the armor back on, and then we want to talk about the gun turrets. So you have 300 on the front, 180 on the side, 145 to 135 on top, and then 265 on the back. So in this situation, you know, the front and the rear gun mount armor plating is what's the strongest here. And probably pretty important to keep these guns going just because they're really your bread and butter here. Now I do want to make a comment here. In yesterday's video, one of the cons I think the WoW's wiki said was that this had poor kiting firing angles, I believe. And I had said up front earlier in the video that I thought it had quite good firing angles, so I ended up saying both. and I ended up doubting myself after that. So I took it into game last night because these are full 360-degree turning traverse turrets, so you could technically shoot right through your superstructure if you wanted to, but the game doesn't allow you to do that. And I'd say, if I remember it quite right, it's about something like this if your guns are angled out this way, where you would have your rear firing angles, something about like that. It's honestly not too bad. Now, I think the Riga really struggled with the kiting game. I really didn't like playing Riga as a kiting cruiser. I think you can get away with a little bit more here with Petropavlovsk in the kiting, but I don't think the kiting is what they necessarily excel at. But of course, if you need to angle away, you know, you've got a really strong armor belt, and that's going to help keep you in action and protect that citadel while you're kiting away. Something about like that, if your guns forward turrets were facing that way. That being said, now when you look at the screen and you look at the upgrades here, don't be like, this is Flimsy's final say. There's some things we're going to be talking about here, and it's really interesting figuring out this ship. I'm really hoping to keep this video probably within 33 minutes, but we're going to carry you right on. So first, let's talk about our armament. Now, with the main battery mod 3 in the 6th slot, we're getting a faster reload time, which brings our reload time down to 12.3 seconds. And then 180-degree turn time of 33.3 seconds. Our HE shell damage is 6,050. And then because we have an AP perk on our commander, our AP shell damage is actually higher here. Normally it'd be 6,350 if I remember right, but we have it pumped up to 6,668 is what we've done here. Going on to the hull, we don't have survivability expert on our commander, which I am definitely going to talk about. So we have 55,800 hit points. With survivability expert, it'd be like 60,300, I think, off the top of my head. So there is definitely something there that we can discuss and talk about. Our main battery firing range is standard is 18.5 kilometers, unless you really wanted to shoot further out with the gunfire control system mod 2. But I don't really think you should, because she's not meant to be played as a long-range cruiser. And then our propulsion is 140,000 horsepower. We have 32.5 knots, not too bad. With Sierra Mike, we can bump that speed up by plus 5% up to 34.1, so I do like running that here. And then going into our first slot of our upgrades, we have the main Armament mod 1. We take this for the main battery. Risk of main battery becoming incapacitated, and you have 20%. Main battery survivability plus 50%, and main battery repair time negative 20%. I don't really think there's an option. I would say that I'd really debate taking something like the damage control party mod 1 plus 40%. I mean, it's just 5 seconds is your action time. Normally you'd see something like this I would take like on Kremlin, the battleships as an example. You don't need a magazine mod 1, risk of your ship's magazine detonating negative 70%, because if you're playing ranked, randoms, or clan battles when the ship is not banned from clan battles, you take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely limits risk of your ship's magazine detonating. You're not playing this as a secondary cruiser. Your AA, pull it up here, 83, so it is decent, but really you want to keep your main battery gun, main battery armament going out of all the options here. Now, the second slot, there's actually a few things we can discuss about here. I'm not thrilled with just having the engine room protection. It was the starting point, as I'm in need of some more coal. I think I can actually buy one right now, a special upgrade. But I've not had any issues of the games I've played where I've had my engine or steering gears knocked out in Petropavlovsk. You know, how much is the engine room protection actually really helping me? Maybe it is helping me and it's making that difference. You know, you're also this very durable, tanky tier 10 Russian cruiser, you know, so you could, oh, maybe I'd take damage control system mod 1 instead to reduce my chances of catching fire and risk of flooding, right? But then I would be eyeing more of the hydroacoustic search mod 1 or the surveillance radar mod 1. Now, one of the cons here, if I talk about the surveillance radar mod 1, is the action time stock is 15 seconds. If I take the surveillance radar mod 1, that will bump us up to 18 seconds, and keep in mind our reload time is 12.3 seconds with the main battery, so we're only ever going to get 2 salvos off in that window. Now there's a commander perk that would pump us up at plus 10%, so that puts us up to like 19.5 point something seconds if I remember correctly, which still is only enough right now for us to get still 2 salvos off. It doesn't help us get that 3rd salvo in, as an example. So I'd be interested to hear of maybe some of you who've already been playing Petropavlovsk. I've had some of you comment on yesterday's video saying how much you really love the ship. I'd be interested to know, do you run the Surveillance Radar Mod 1 or not? The other thing here, which I think is a little bit more value in my mind, is the Hydroacoustic Search Mod 1. Because this is going to extend your action time by plus 20%. Our action time with the Hydro right now is 100 seconds. If we take the Hydroacoustic Search Mod 1, it bumps us up to 120 seconds. And then we would take something like the Sierra Bravo, which plus 10% on Hydroacoustic Consumable action time. That's actually going to put us over, like, I think it's 132 seconds. And then there's that same 10 plus 10% Commander perk, which I'll talk about, which would push us up to 145 seconds on our action time of our Hydroacoustic Search. So I think, you know, do I want, you know, 45 more seconds on my Hydro, or do I want almost 5 more seconds on our radar? So you can kind of see there's, in my mind, the Hydroacoustic Search wins out in my head. Here, if I'm looking to take a special modification, so if I click on it, it's going to take me into Armory. I might have enough coal to buy it now. Yes, I do have enough coal to buy it now. So maybe we end up plopping that on. But you're going to see here, it's 17,000 coal. With coupon, it's 12,750 coal. You could see I'm pretty low on my reserves of my coal right now. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. We're going to go ahead and pick it up, and we're going to put it on Petropavlovsk. Because I want you guys to see, I want to try to get as close as possible to the build that I'm wanting to recommend here. Let me just sell this. So after playing the ship enough, you know, there's some things we're learning here. So that's what I do in the 2nd slot. The 3rd slot, what I've done right now is the main battery mod 2. Now I don't think this isn't the upgrade I ultimately want to take here in the 3rd slot, which I'll explain more why. But our main battery traverse speed is, right now it's 33.3 seconds. Now we do have grease the gears on our commander for the turret traverse, but we take a hit here on our main battery mod 3. You can see here main battery traverse speed negative 13%. So because I've gone for quote unquote the damage per minute, a faster damage per minute with our reload time of our main battery, what I've done to help offset that is I've taken the main battery mod 2 to improve our main battery traverse speed by plus 15%, thus giving us that 33.3 second 180 degree turn time, because this is like battleship turret traverse time, right? So it really, when I'm playing a cruiser, I really don't like having something that's going to be even greater than 30 seconds on cruisers. But this isn't ultimately what I want to take. What I ultimately want to take would be the Aiming Systems Mod 1. Now this is going to build into the unique upgrade from the Research Bureau in the 6th slot, okay? So the maximum main battery shell dispersion is negative 7%, and then we get a little buff to secondary battery firing range, which I haven't fully looked at the secondaries here. Yeah, it's 3.6 seconds. They are, yeah, 130 millimeter. So what I want to do is go for the Aiming Systems Mod 1. Now I'm going to put it on the bottom right side of the screen here, and you're going to see how that improves our maximum horizontal and maximum vertical dispersion, okay? But then you're going to be like, well, Flimsy, you're going to not be that turret traverse time of 33.3 seconds, okay? But hold that thought, we're getting there. So I'd actually go for the Aiming Systems Mod 1. So for the heck of it right now, actually let me just go ahead and sell this, and we're gonna throw this on. So I think actually I should be able to see it here. I'm blind. Maximum dispersion 190 meters. I think that's the horizontal. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put on the Aiming Systems Mod 1. Now you're seeing 177 meters, so we've decreased the maximum horizontal dispersion and the maximum vertical dispersion now with that skill. But then you're seeing 180 return time is 38.3 seconds. Hang in there, we're getting there, And we have a decent sigma also on these guns. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I have it on a different screen, but I'm afraid to look at it because then I'll mess up the video recording somehow. So continuing on, in the fourth slot, what we've done is the propulsion mod 1. Yes, you are a tanky cruiser who sits on key objective zones and so forth, but you know, you're sitting in these positions where you actually want to be rocking forward and reverse. You don't just want to be sitting still. Forward, reverse, use the W and S key, so you're throwing off enemy fire. And also avoiding torpedoes, you know, this, that, and the other. So I really like having the propulsion mod 1 here versus thinking of going something like the damage control system mod 2, which would just be decreasing the fire extinguishing, or improving the fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time. I think the prop mod wins out overall. And then in the fifth slot, because we're going for the concealment build overall in the Petropavlovsk, I think the concealment system mod 1 is really good. Ships detectability range, -10%. Squadron detectability range, -10%, and dispersion of shells fired at us by enemies attacking our ship is +5%. Now here's something that I think the Petropavlovsk has over the Stalingrad and has over the Moskva, okay? What I think shines a little bit more here on the Petropavlovsk is that concealment, right? So when you're setting up in an early position with Moskva, you have to be even kind of further back. You don't want to push in and then go broadside into your position. You want to start off broadside in spawn and go to whatever flank or, you know, objective you want to set up on, and then go bow in, because Moscow has such a vulnerable broadside. And the same thing is with Stalingrad. They just have a greater surface detectability range. Or on Petropavlovsk, you can actually get that much further down. So you can be a bit more cheeky, especially in the competitive, in having that 13.2 concealment, which we currently have on the Petropavlovsk. So I think it's worth going for the concealment system mod 1 here overall, all things considered. You could talk about bumping up your consumable action time as well, but I'm like, it's just not enough. You know, there's just so much more you're going to be able to get out of the concealment system mod 1, I think, than something, you know, talking about the consumable, extending that time, etc., etc. Now you do have a pretty poor maneuverability. You have a larger turning circle radius. You see it's 990 meters, rudder shift 12.1. So when you do turn out to go broadside, it's a bit of a rough life. If you wanted to really go for like a lighthouse build, Petropavlovsk, where you kind of forsake concealment and you're building into your main battery, and maybe you're taking the top grade gun on your commander to reduce your reload time by extending out your detectability range, then maybe you can have an argument for that, but I don't really think that's where Petropavlovsk shines in that. And then the sixth slot. So there's two upgrades here that I believe are worth taking. The one is the main battery mod 3, which is if you don't have access to the research bureau, you don't have research points, then I'd say just go for the main battery mod 3, and that's what helps get us that 12.3 second reload time right now. Okay. Really good stuff. But we are taking that nerf of the main battery traverse speed. So notice how we've switched out the aiming systems mod 1. So now you can see our traverse time is 38.3 seconds. Now the great thing is, typically with Petropavlovsk, you're playing more of these objectives around the caps. You're not really constantly turning your turrets, only if someone's trying to make a move and flank you, right? Destroyer or something like that, then this is a little bit painful. But in general, between your hydroacoustic search and your radar, you're pretty aware of your surroundings, and you should be looking at your mini-map regularly, okay? But what I think would be really insane good here would actually be the ballistic capped armored piercing shells. So when you take this, you immediately are going to give up that a nerf to the main battery traverse speed, and it's actually going to drop you down to where we were before, and having the main battery mod 2. So actually we're going to be back to 33.3 seconds, 180 degree turn time when we do give up the main battery mod 3. But yes, we are going to be coughing up our reload time. It's no longer going to be 12.3 seconds. So well, shoot, I'm going to go, well, I'll show you what it looks like stock, because I don't know what it is off the top of my head. So we'll just demount it, okay? So it's going to push us back up. It was 14 seconds. I thought that's what it was, but after yesterday, I don't want to get it wrong. It is going to be 14 seconds, okay? So yes, you've added 1.7 seconds back onto our turret traverse time. But coming back here to the ballistic capped armor piercing shells, your main battery AP shell damage is going to go up by plus 10%. So I actually don't have enough, excuse me, I don't have enough Research Bureau points right now because I've got it all invested in terms of I've stacked it on the line right now. So I'm going to do the math on my phone. So we've taken a commander perk that's already improved our AP shell damage, so 6,668 times 1.10. So now our AP shells with this are going to be doing 7,334.8, or maybe it rounds it up to 7,335, or just be 7,334. And then our maximum main battery shell dispersion is going to be reduced by -10%. So if I come back here into the artillery, you see the 177. So if I go 177 times 0.9, it drops us down to 159.3, or it'll probably be like 160 meters. So we're getting really good dispersion when we go for the ballistic capped armor piercing shells. Now the pain of this all is we're going to lose one consumable. We're going to lose right now, because we have superintendent, we're going to go down from 4 heals to 3 heals, 4 hydros to 3 hydros, 4 radars to 3 radars. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of the pain here. So let me go ahead and click on this. If you don't have, I think how it works is if you don't have 5 tier 10 ships, you won't have access to the Research Bureau, but then I know Wargaming has been making it possible to get Research Bureau points, do dockyards and stuff, maybe before by additional points and stuff if you go beyond like the max amount of shipbuilding phases. So it's going to cost you 19,200. You don't get any coupons for this. You can see I have 172 right now. But I have like 5 resets stacked on the Shimakaze line, so actually I can go ahead and get this whenever I want to, so to speak. I just have to pick up the Shimakaze line and reclaim those points. So if you're a little uncertain about how the Research Bureau works, I'll put at the end of this video where I talk about, I think, how do you go through the Research Bureau, how do you gain research points by resetting lines, so on and so forth. So I'll put that video at the end in case you're wondering about that. But to me, this would be really great to take when I just look down and I see the numbers. Now there was, I think if I remember how to say it right, one of the YouTube, my subscribers, viewers, Danny, if I think it's right, let me, sometimes I'm like, you know, did I say his name right, or did I not? I don't know if it's actually, you can see it here in the comments. I need to X the haven't responded to. Yeah, Danny. He runs the ballistic capped armor piercing shells, and he says it's phenomenal. It's really great. So I trust his opinion. I think he's onto something here. So I would definitely put this in the 6th slot. So what I'm going to do is, because I've changed around some of our upgrades here, once I've picked up the unique upgrade here, I'm going to do another Petropavlovsk video, and it's going to be focusing in on the unique upgrade and what this build quite looks like in battle, since we've already changed 2. We're going to be changing 3 of the 6. We've changed half of our upgrades after going through this upgrade commander build video. But I wanted to kind of show you both worlds. You know, here's the setup if you don't have the Research Bureau points that I'd recommend going for. If you do, this is what I'd build more into that dispersion, right? So we're already going over high explosive shells. You have, they don't do a ton of damage here. It's 3,050. That was one of the cons they listed here when it came to these 220mm guns, at least in the WoW's wiki. But you pin 37mm. It's nice. You have only a 14% chance of causing a fire on target. And these shells, between the high explosive and the armor piercing, have insanely good initial shell velocity of 995 meters a second, being that 18.5 kilometer range. And then here, you can see right now our maximum damage is 6,668. If you don't have this commander perk, I'll show you here in just a minute, skill, it's going to be 6,350. And then, of course, as I was just talking about, we can bump this up to, was it 7,334 roughly, once we've taken the unique upgrade. So we can get a lot. I mean, we've increased the damage of our AP shells at that point by 1,000, almost 1,000, right? That's really, really good when you put all those together. Going on to the depth charge airstrike, you have 2 available flights, 1 aircraft in attacking flight. They have a range of 8 kilometers. Helpful, typically battleships get to 10 to, so let's say 11 kilometer range on the depth charge airstrike. And you get 2 bombs and payload, so in total 4 between both flights. Maximum bomb damage 4,900, which is alright. And you really want this, especially if you're playing around key objective areas, dealing with subs, so on and so forth. Because you're more that mid-range, you're playing under 14 kilometers, typically here with the Petropavlovsk. That's really where she shines. In terms of consumables, damage control party, a standard, you have infinite amount, 5-second action time, cooldown time, 60 seconds. With Superintendent right now, not including unique upgrade, we have 4 repair parties, 4 hydroacoustic searches, and 4 radars. So HP per second is 279. With India Delta combat signal, which improves our repair party, we jump up to 334, which if you're playing ranked randoms clan battles, you're going to want to take the India Delta combat signal. Action time of 28 seconds, cooldown time 80 seconds. And then coming here, we have 2 options. We have our hydroacoustic search and we have the defensive AA. Now, as I said in the Fight a Highlight video, just because, Wargaming's selling torpedoes on almost every new ship, whether it's a battleship, whether it's a cruiser, whether it's a destroyer, it's a submarine, aircraft carriers, right? It's just, the market is torpedo saturated. So your hydroacoustic search really wins out. It's more important than it has ever been in the game since I've started playing. And I think it wins out versus defensive AA fire consumable. So detection of torpedoes 3.5, detection of ships 5 kilometers. You can spot submarines at their maximum depth of 2 kilometers once you're within that close of range. We've bumped the action time up from 100 to 120 seconds right now. Our cooldown time is 120 seconds. Now, if I take the Sierra Bravo combat signal, now we've bumped it up to 132 seconds. So this is also, I like to run that combat signal here when I'm playing Petropavlovsk. Then you have the defensive AA fire consumable, continuous damage plus 50%, shell explosion damage plus 300%, action time 40 seconds, cooldown time 72 seconds, and you'd get 5 defensive AA fire consumables if you were running it. I don't think it really has I don't think it wins out here in the Petropavlovsk in my mind unless you're really wanting to go for CVs, but then I'd say, hey, play a different cruiser, tier 10 cruiser that has better AA than the Petropavlovsk. Like Brisbane, Minotaur, Worcester. I'm not sure if Salem, I think, maybe even has better AA. And then radar, 12 kilometer, the Soviet typical 12 kilometer radar. Action time only 15 seconds, so it is a very short duration radar compared to, let's say, the 10 kilometer radars that you find on the American cruisers, or 9 kilometers even as well. Cooldown time 120 seconds, and we get 4 of these. Now, I also like running November Foxtrot, which reduces the cooldown time on all of these consumables. So we go from 60 to 57, 80 to 76, 120 to 114, 120 to 114. Other combat signals I typically like to run here is something kind of like, it'd probably be something similar to this. Honestly, we're just going to go ahead and reduce the fire extinguishing time. We can bump our AA up. It's not terrible, as 83 rating, now we're up to 85. You can see when we take this off, we go from continuous damage 312 to 328, shell explosions 1820 to 1911. Alternatively, if you really wanted to increase your fire chance, you could do that as well, bumping yourself up to 16%. But you're typically only firing AP main-wise with these main batteries. So I would lean towards something like this, in my opinion. Now you're going to notice something here off the bat. We have Nikolay Kuznetsov as our ship commander. He is from the armory. You pick him up for 175,000 coal if you don't have access to him. He's probably, I would say, between the top 3 of these unique commanders. I would say it's like Halsey and Yamamoto Isoroku, which you pick up from 2 different campaigns. And I'd say Nikolay Kuznetsov is in the top 3. Whoever you want to place first is up to you, but he's fantastic because of his talents. He has the will for victory, which you saw us activate yesterday. Activates once per battle if your ship's HP falls below 10%. Now, Wargaming nerfed this a while back. I don't remember how exactly. I think they reduced the action time. I think that action time was like 30 seconds. But then they shortened it to 15 seconds, and I think they ended up giving the ship HP per second. I think they took it from 0.25 to 0.35. Don't quote me on that. But they did leave the dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship. So Kuznetsov used to be even stronger, and you really like running him on like Kremlin and Petropavlovsk, even Alexander Nevsky as an example. I see some people run him on like Khabarovsk, some of the tier 10 Russian destroyers as well. This is a fantastic skill because I almost use it most games. Not all games, but a good majority of the games I'm running with Kuznetsov. You also have the emergency reserve. If you pick up the first blood achievement, then you'll get +1. Radar, hydro, and heal, radar, hydro. Yeah. So especially if you're taking the unique upgrade and you lose out on the additional consumable charges for these consumables, then you really want first blood if you're able to, and that picks it up, so then you don't actually, that's if you get the first blood, right? He has, for cruisers, the enhanced skill of the consumable specialist, which reduces your preparation and reload time by -10%, but we're not running that here. Goodness gracious, the video's already over 31 minutes. Let me try to do this short and sweet. Now, this is a little bit of a different build, okay? Normally, what you would see me do here is I wouldn't take the heavy AP shells, I would take Survivability Expert. I just want to make this distinction right off the bat as you hear me talk about this commander build, because then I think our hit points would be 66,300. So I would normally swap out with that, but because of us building into the unique upgrade, which gives us +10%, and then here we get +5%. So we're getting +15% AP shell damage between that unique upgrade and this specific commander skill. So then I really don't want to give that up now, right? And then if I take that unique upgrade, I'm going to lose out on my each of those consumable charges. So I wouldn't give up Superintendent for Survivability Expert, because then ultimately we're only going to have 2 radars, 2 heals, and 2 hydroacoustic searches, right? So we really want Superintendent. So this is kind of that train of thought that ends us not end up taking Survivability Expert. But I'll still talk about some build options here. So off the bat, you want Grease the Gears, main battery traverse speed plus 15%. So if we didn't have that even right now, we would be not doing so well. You know, we'd be back up to like 38 seconds, I guess is what it would be. So you really want to Grease the Gears. Now there's 2 options here for your 3rd point skill, 3-point commander, excuse me. You could take Party Target, or you could take your consumable enhancements. This is what I was talking about. You can bump the radar. If you went full radar build, you'd go from 18 to like 19 point something, and our hydro will go from 132 point something to 145 point something seconds. I really like the Party Target skill because I'm playing more the mid-range, and when you're playing the high tier, there's a lot of ships that are going to spam you across the map. Example, I was in Salem yesterday, and the tier 10 French battleship, the Patrie, I actually don't know how to pronounce that ship, death struck me 25 kilometers away. And I was moving, like I was reversing back up behind an island because I had to move to Shimakaze yellowed me, he died, lol. But I was like, who else is aiming at me besides this Marceau that I'm taking on right now in front of me? Or Marcelli, did I pronounce that one? Anyhow, I want to know who's aiming at me and how many, so then it makes me more aware of possible Patrie who shot over 2 islands 25 kilometers back in the spawn. No clue, right? But most of the time this does help. So I like it a little more than the consumables enhancements. It also tells me when destroyers are switching between torpedoes and their main armament, because if they're going main armament, that their main battery guns, and they switch to torpedoes, it goes from 1 detected, or maybe you have 2 to 1, 2 to 1. That means someone's probably firing torpedoes at you in that moment. 6-point commander build, Adrenaline Rush. Get that reload time down, right? So we were rocking previously the 12.3. Now we're back up to 14. So get it down to 13.6, 13.4. You know, as you lose hit points, you will buff your reload time on your main battery, your secondary battery, airstrike armament reload time, and you get a slight buff to your continuous A damage. And then 10 points, Commander. You could just go for the concealment expert right off the bat, and then get yourself down to 13.2 by sea, 7.9 by air. I think that's kind of a pretty traditional 10-point starting out here. And then probably after this, for a 14-point build, I would go for a top grade gunner next. So then once we are within the standard techability range and enemy ships within 13.2 kilometers of us, we get a main battery reload time reduction of negative 8%, which typically when you're playing on key objectives and caps, you're keeping your at 12-kilometer Russian radar on the cap, right? So then you're pretty much, quite frequently this skill is being activated. You do get the secondary battery permanent effect of the reload time being reduced by negative 10%, but you're taking it for the main battery. After that, then I would probably look at picking up Superintendent. So this would be a 17-point build. Give yourself the additional radar, heal, and hydroacoustic search. A 20-point build, then I'd go for the heavy AP shells. This is a main battery AP shell damage with a main battery caliber of 190 millimeters and above, which gives us that 6,668 rather than 6,350 previously, which we're working up to 7,334 with the unique upgrade. And then for a 21-point build, gun feeder. Main battery shell type switching time, negative 40%. So you can see here it's 8.4 seconds. And when your top grade gunner is activated, your adrenaline rush is going, this is going to be even lower, like 8 seconds and beneath 8 seconds, 7.5, something like that. And you actually really need this. I wasn't so certain, like, do I really need the gun feeder? And for me, I feel like I really need it, because when I end up stepping on a cap and then you have a destroyer rushing you, or he's trying to be cheeky and taking you out, then your high explosive, of course, is going to be much better to run than the armor piercing. Now, if you don't want to go for that unique upgrade in the 6th slot, then I would say give up heavy AP shells and take survivability expert and boost your survivability to over the 60,300. That is if you don't want to build in, because this heavy AP shells damage stacks with this 6th slot unique upgrade. So we're building into having stupidly really good accurate main battery guns for a cruiser that has a lot of shell velocity, hits for a lot of damage with these 220 millimeter AP guns, right? That's what I would say. I mean, you kind of saw what I was running without the unique upgrade, but now this is the build we're going for, keeping that unique upgrade in mind. So I'm going to end the video now, because this has gone on much longer than I really wanted to, but there's a lot to talk about here, and for me as a content creator, I'd rather be more thorough rather than just skip out on some of the details. So I hope you don't mind the additional time on this Saturday unique upgrade and commander build video, or upgrade and commander build video. So if you do like today's video, give a thumbs up. If you do not, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters, and let me know your thoughts and questions below in the comments, and talk about what, if you have Petropavlovsk, what do you really like running here on this heavy cruiser. Until next time, take care.